No, I'll speak to that. Sorry? Oh, you didn't have your volume off? Actually, I should make sure that. Okay. Okay, folks, it is 6 p.m. and it is Monday, July the 14th, and this is our monthly July council meeting. So calling the meeting to order at 6 p.m. and please rise for the playing of the national anthem. Please be seated. So we'll begin this meeting with a land acknowledgement. With gratitude, the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands acknowledges these lands and waters are the traditional territory of the Algonquin, Mississaugas, Mohawk, and Huron-Wendat. To recognize the role of the township we must play in truth and reconciliation, we also acknowledge the displacement of these peoples. Additionally, the township would like to respectfully acknowledge the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples who also call this place home. We make this land acknowledgement to honor the Indigenous ancestors who have stewarded these lands and waters since time immemorial. Moving on to number 4, which is adoption of the agenda. The motion comes forward with Councillor Kelman and seconded by Councillor Grell that the agenda be adopted as circulated. Any amendments? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. And my apologies, folks, our CAO was unable to join us this evening, so we will just continue on at this point. We also move forward with the declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Does anybody have an interest to declare on tonight's agenda? Seeing none. We have no early closed session or public meeting or briefings, so we'll move forward to consent agenda and adoption and receipt of minutes. Motion comes forward from Councillor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Grell, that the June 16th council meeting minutes and the July 7th, 2025 committee of the whole meeting minutes be adopted as circulated, and that the May 27th, 2025 committee of adjustment minutes be received and filed. Are there any errors or omissions? I have no hands up, so I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Next item is staff reports. And the motion is coming forward from Councillor Kelman, seconded by Councillor Gorell. The council approved the staff reports as recommended at the July 7th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting, I should say. So there are 4 things, 11.1 through 11.4. Is there any comments or additional to be made? So go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Could we pull 11.3 and vote on that separately, please?
Sure.
I'll request a recorded vote as well, please.
Okay. So the request is to remove 11.3 for a separate vote. Any other comments or questions about any of the staff reports before we entertain that amendment? Seeing none, so Councillor Lackey would like to amend the motion to exclude 11.3. And somebody want to second that? Councillor Grill? Okay, so the amendment to the motion is to exclude 11.3 from the council staff reports. I will call the question on the motion. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. So the motion is that the amended motion is that council approve the staff reports excluding 11.3 as recommended at the July 7th Committee of the Whole meeting. So that is the amended motion. Last call for any comments in regards to 11.1, 11.2, or 11.4. I have no hands up, so I will call the question. All those in favor, all those opposed, and it is carried. So we'll move on and vote on 11.3. So the motion, so the motion would be that 11.3 appointment of the deputy chief building official be approved. I want to make sure I have the record, approve the staff report 11.3 appointment of the deputy chief building official from the July 7th, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting on its own. So mover, Councillor Lackey, I'm assuming you wanted to move that? Okay. And second, Kelman. Okay. So the motion is in regards to the appointment of deputy chief building official. Comments on this motion? Okay. No comments, but you said that you wanted a recorded vote. Okay. So Madam Clerk.
Councillor Antoine Hartley, a yes or a no?
Yes, please.
Deputy Mayor Fody,
Yes.
Councillor Gorell,
Yes.
Councillor Kelman,
Yes.
Councillor Lackey,
No.
Councillor Maybe,
Yes.
and Mayor Smith-Gacky.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So that motion is carried, and we will move on with action required items, which is number 12. Moved by Councillor Gorell, seconded by Councillor Lackey, that the council approve the distribution of $24,050.25 in the private road grants capital stream as proposed in Exhibit A to Operations and Infrastructure Report 2025-038, and that council approve the allocation of remaining funds budgeted in the 2025 private road grant capital stream to the applicants of the 2025 private road grants maintenance stream as proposed in Exhibit B to Operations and Infrastructure Report number 2025-038. So comments on this? I have Councillor Grell and then Councillor Kelman and then Councillor Fody. Go ahead, Councillor Grell.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. It's something I've talked about previous councils, and it comes down to the way that we apportion monies for the grant. We work on it appears, a per kilometer basis, and I've maintained that it ought to be more of a per household per kilometer basis. And that is an easy formula. Artificial intelligence will give it to you in 10 seconds. I could pump it out because I appreciate that it's easier if you have a per kilometer, 2 kilometers, 2 times X, 3 kilometers, 10 kilometers, whatever. And one of the reasons I bring it up is I've always felt it unfair to, or overly fair to persons who might be, our bylaw, or pardon me, our policy says two houses qualify. It doesn't say whatever, so they could be 6 kilometers on 2 houses at a per kilometer rate, and that's a pretty high subsidy, because that's what it is. It's a subsidy. And when I look at one of the schedules that's attached here, I see 7 homes receiving paving, and I would question paving for $5,000 out of a $25,000 ask. And so there's a total there of six asks, a total of 231 homes. Wonderful. And I am very supportive of that. But 7 homes they max out there, I guess. I'm just curious why we don't pursue a per household, per kilometer, per. And I know the math is easier this way. I get that. But it seems that our fairness is questionable. Thank you.
Director Holliday, would you like to speak to this?
Thank you, through your worship. I could do the math on that, no problem. The challenge with going that route is that the cost per kilometer to maintain the lane remains the same. And I think we had this discussion last year as well. So whether there are 2 houses on that road or there are 40 houses on that road, they're still paying the same amount to maintain that 6 kilometers of road. So if it's $10,000 per year, that means it's $5,000 per year per household. Where if they had 40 homes, it's only costing them, a fraction of that. And I could break that down, but
If I might, and I don't mean to be argumentative, but of course that is true. But the point is that it's the council and tax dollars that are supporting a private road. So therefore, to be fair, per household in your math, or not your math, in the way the policy reads, excuse me, let me keep it clear, the policy that we approved reads, that needs to be rethought, in my humble opinion, because I appreciate everything you said, that is true. But do we want to therefore ignore the fact that 5 homes can get a rather large subsidy, 40 homes could get per household less subsidy, get the same road? That seems to me an odd way of looking at it. And maybe I'm marching out of step with council, but I think that should be revisited, as I've said in previous councils, and it should be based upon per household, per easy formula. Thank you.
So just as a suggestion, if you would like to see that done, I would say that a notice of motion would be in order so that we have to.
We would change the policy.
Correct.
Very
So
good.
if
Thank you.
If you
That'll
wish
be
to do
forward.
that. Councillor Kelman and then Councillor Fody, or Deputy Mayor Fody, my apologies.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I just wanted to say that I have actually heard, I know that the Director of Operations has had feedback from several road associations, and I've had one in particular reach out to me recently, concerned about the increasing maintenance costs and asking if we could allocate more funds. I didn't necessarily agree with how they were thinking it should be allocated, but I do appreciate that we are trying to give a bit more coming from what wasn't used in the capital stream. So I think that's a good start, maybe something that needs to be revisited for budgeting for next year, and maybe there will be other considerations taken into account. And I did also just want to, it is clarified in the report, but just for anyone, that the amounts being allocated today in Exhibit B are in addition to amounts already allocated. So I just wanted to, because I did have one person email me and was confused about that, even though I think it's fairly clear in the report. So
Thank you. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. Councillor Grell touched on the subject I want to talk about. This Park Lane Association, they're asking for paving. These are private roads. I don't want to have to address one question from one member of our township of why their tax money is going to somebody's private lane. I don't think we foresaw this coming through. I don't think this has happened in the past as of yet, but we need to take paving out of that offer. We'll help you widen your road, put the culverts in, you do what you want with this money, but I don't want paving in here whatsoever. It's just wrong. This is taxpayers' money, and we can't be paving private lanes with it. Thank you.
So perhaps I would make the same suggestion that when the notice of motion comes through, that that could be part of the discussion at that time to change the policy if that is.
If I might follow up on
Go ahead, and then I recognize
Councillor
Councillor.
Fode's comments. If you read the policy, it highlights, I don't know, 4 or 5 items that are applicable. And I didn't want to overdefine the word paving, but paving is not in the policy. So therefore, it did come to my attention. Now, maybe that's just a term that's been put here to simplify it for us horseshoe people. But it is not in the original policy. So it doesn't need to come to notice of motion. It's not there. Thank you.
So I'm going to go to Councillor Lackey and then go back to the director as he's looking something up right now. Go ahead, Councillor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I thought the idea of the grants towards private lanes was that it would help them to bring the road up to a standard to which perhaps someday it may be to a standard that we would take over. So if for somebody that's at that paving point, has that been looked at as a final step to having an ask come towards us to take it over? Or how are we gauging where the money goes as far as where they are on that scale of MTO?
Go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship. With that specific application that came in, the resurfacing was the replacement of an existing surface that had failed, and they were looking to replace it. It was on a hill where they had historically had challenges with drainage, where the road would continually wash out, and they had the forethought to pave that section of the hill, because hills for roads, for even us, are the hardest thing to keep on a road. So they had paved the road. Now the road, the asphalt had come to the end of its life. It was at the prescribed width and depths and all those types of things. So they did meet the standard when it came to their application. So they were looking to replace that in order to keep the hill for emergency service access. And that's the way that I reviewed it.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Grail, did you want to weigh back in on this?
I don't want to beat this to death and I sound horrible, but the fact is, how many kilometers are we talking? See, it's $5,000. Are we paving a hill to prevent erosion? Wonderful idea. But it strikes me the Park Hill, when it was addressed that they received money previously on the maintenance program or whatever, it was 6 kilometers or something. So, we have households there, but it doesn't address. And once again, it's the perceived unfairness of the policy or the measuring out. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, through your worship. They're not looking to pave the entire road with this capital grant. They received a quote from Tackerberry to do the work, and I think the grand total was around $30,000. So they're just looking for $5,000 in order to cover a portion of that total cost. Yes, it's 6 kilometers long. This section is only a portion. With all of the capital grants that are submitted, they're not looking to bring the entire lane up. They're piecing it off 1 year at a time, where they might be doing brushing or culverts or widening sections, and we review those sections. So if they're looking to add gravel to the road, we only approve the sections where they're looking to approve the gravel to our standard width. And everybody that applies is aware of this. We're not resurfacing roads that don't meet the current standard. And this one was an example of that, where it's just a portion of the road that they're looking to do, where it's a hill, and they're looking to resurface that with fresh asphalt.
Follow up, Deputy Mayor Fode.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. We could reword this. The application could be that they need to bring material up to standards for paving. I'm sure they could eat up the 5,000 there, but you don't have to pave it. We put this seal coat, or whatever the proper term is, that we just did on Kidd Road. That's pretty hard stuff. It's going to take a lot of water to wash that away. I don't think it has to be paved. I would like to keep the word paving away from private roads. That's just my pet peeve. Thanks.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to call the question on the motion as it was presented, and that any further conversations in regards to the policy and how that might be viewed is subject to a further discussion at a later date. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we are carried. Next item on the agenda is long-term borrowing for the fire hall, moved by Councillor Kelman, seconded by Councillor Gorell. That council grant 3 readings and final passage to bylaw number 2025-038, being a bylaw to authorize long-term borrowing in the amount up to $6,808,500 for the purposes of the construction of a fire hall as attached to corporate services 2025-020. Motion is on the floor and available for discussion. Councillor Maybe, and then I got Councillor Grow.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Some of my questions are the actual term, because again, in the report, I believe it said, I'm just reading my notes here, 3 years opposed to a 5-year term, which is kind of standard on a lot of things that I've ever dealt with, as well as the annual or the percentage rating, and how does that play with this? Maybe a little bit more overview on this other than the report that we actually had. Can you give us some background?
Go ahead, Treasurer.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, staff are recommending a 3-year term. Mainly the reason for that is to keep the flexibility open in 3 years. So just some background. We met with IO, Infrastructure Ontario, back in, I believe it was February or early March, to start laying the groundwork for the possibility and what their rates would be. And in talking with them, they actually recommended this because with an IO loan, you kind of set it and forget it. You're locked in for 25, 30 years, whatever term you want, and that's your rate, and there's really no breaking it. So currently that's about 4.74%, which is quite high. I wouldn't recommend locking in for 30 years at 4.75. So in talking with IO, she mentioned that they can issue these loan agreements for anything that's less than 5 years old. So she said, if we were to go to a bank loan, keep the term renewal within that frame to provide that flexibility so that they would still be on the table when we do come up for renewal in 3 years, that depending on where their rates are, we could then look to lock into IO at that time. Anything beyond 5 years, they are legislatively not able to provide funding for. So that's kind of the background on that 3-year term renewal. It's just to give us that flexibility.
Follow up. And the interest rate that was IO had previous to this last kind of 5-year bump that we've had because of COVID, do you recall or have any basis on what it was opposed to what they're offering at this point?
The interest rates fluctuate like anything. I don't know what they were then. I can tell you when we were meeting them in March, it was actually a little bit lower than 4.74, I think it was around 4.5. Historically, they have been much lower. So it is much, generally speaking, historically, it's been advantageous to lock in with IO. But right now, even the person we spoke to said they are seeing a lot more of this with municipalities with where the current IO rates are.
Okay, Councillor Grow, go ahead.
Thank you. And through you, Your Worship, this is the one item on our agenda tonight that I found, it's tough for me to digest this. And I'm sure around this council, none of us are bankers, although we have a fine banker in our audience tonight who probably knows a good deal more than I will ever know. I don't mind for 1 second the analysis in terms of a shorter term loan. When this started, I remember pretty clearly the IO was 3%. So here we are, and no one can predict interest rates. For sure, it's tied to the bond market. However, I do support that part of this analysis that we should be cautious and go with the 3, as our treasurer has pointed out. I think that's a very wise idea. As I read through this, however, the analysis deals with the fire hall. It states that over and over. And yet, when I get to the attachments and the actual bylaw, the bylaw opens it up considerably. Although the title says it's about the fire hall, if you read the words carefully, it opens it up. There's a plurality. That means an S attached to it. And it says, and as further ... may be. So before we vote on the bylaw, I would like it amended to be more closely regarded to exactly the analysis, which is the fire hall at $7 million. Okay, now I know that might be a little tough too, but if you read that carefully, and I could ask the people who wrote it, because it might be boilerplate, but I would like it more contained, and therefore I would strongly suggest that when we get to the bylaw itself, that it be amended, some words taken out to be very specific about the borrowing for the stated purpose. And the stated purpose is a fire hall at $7 million. And 10% of us didn't vote for that. So it's important to me that we understand it. And if we choose not to amend it, I would like us to understand what we are voting for around the horseshoe, because it's easy to go, yeah, it's a good idea. We go with the 3%, but read the bylaw. Thank you.
Mr. Treasurer, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor, to answer your question, Councilor Grow, the bylaw was mostly taken actually from a template written through IO for that purpose. And I would just say for what the borrowing can be used for, I would point to Schedule A of the bylaw, which is very specific. And it's very specific to construction of new fire hall in Sealy's Bay. It's not for any other works other than that.
But my point is, through you, Your Worship, my point is that the analysis is for fire hall. So I get it. I could read that and determine that it was boilerplate from somewhere else too. But it doesn't need to be. This is a borrowing bylaw that we're passing sitting around the table. So without being argumentative, let's just make it, we are borrowing for the fire hall. You say Schedule A, then that's it. Because if someone wants to come back, a future council wants more debt for this, for our taxpayers, I don't want it just a casual, oh, we're going to add a secondary to the Schedule A. I want it fully debated and so on. So let's just tie this into one thing, and that is the fire hall. In other words, Schedule A, end of statement, or even get rid of Schedule A, just say, this is for the fire hall and the fire hall only.
Correct. I would just say the bylaw within the bylaw's parameters points to Schedule A as the capital work for the borrowing to be taken out on, and only the items listed in Schedule A, and that is the only item in Schedule A.
Then to be, so the next council coming in says, oh my goodness gracious, we need something, and it's big money. So they say, hey, let's go to Schedule A and we'll just tack that on. And it's going to sound kind of innocent. We'll just tack it on to Schedule A, and don't worry, it's reminding the
I would say with all
the waste site for $10 million. We need to borrow $10 million. Let's tack that on to Schedule A.
I would just say with all due respect, borrowing is very heavily legislated through the Municipal Act. You cannot do that. You would have to get a new borrowing bylaw. You can't do that. And not to mention the fact that even the bank's agreement is specific to a new fire hall in Sealy's Bay. It's not an open-ended line of credit that we can just keep drawing down for whatever we see.
And we can't add to it as well.
And we cannot add to it.
But then why is the bylaw, excuse me, now I'm sounding argumentative and I don't mean to be.
Right.
But then why does the bylaw read in such a complex manner with plurality and I forget the exact words? Why does it need to read that way? It doesn't need to. It's a simple matter. We're borrowing $7 million from a bank for 3 years on an amortized loan of 25 years. Bingo. But we make it sound like, good Lord. I'm sorry.
I don't know.
It just sounds a little thick.
I don't disagree with that. I would say that's part of the beauty of the Municipal Act. And that's how, as respectful as I can say with that.
The Municipal Act is very specific.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the concern that Councilor Gurrell has brought forward, but to the point that the treasurer has made is that the hope is that, you know, we can't make this any more simple because of the way the Municipal Act is written. And that's what I'm reading from you. To the point that Councilor Gurrell, why does it need to be that complicated? If that was if we could figure that out, lots of things would be a lot more simple. But, so I have Deputy Mayor Fode's hand up. Do I have another hand up? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. I gather you mentioned in this presentation, there's two other banks had bid, I guess you would say. They were tipped out because of their rate, or was there other reasons?
Through you, Mayor. Yes. So in doing this, we approached 5 of the major banks to request rates. 2 didn't respond. The other 2 responded with higher rates.
Okay. A secondary question, if I may. Is the township allowed to borrow money from Farm Credit Corporation?
I would have to check if there's very specific rules of who we can borrow through. I'd have to look into that.
I think farm credit has to be done in regards to agricultural work.
It has to be done under agricultural generalization. I had that question. I reversed it one time when I paid off a large mortgage, and the lender who I paid off said, if you ever want to borrow a lot of money again, fast forward, he came to us 3 years later with something I didn't think fell under the heading of agriculture whatsoever. And my wife was more keen about it than I was. I had cold feet, mainly because the amount was 2.5 times what I just paid off. But that's getting aside. Farm Credit Corporation, all it is, people misunderstand it, that it's only for farmers. It's not true. It's agriculture related. It's backed by the federal government, and the rates are lower. That's my point. It's worth checking out anyway.
Yeah, generally it's Schedule 1 banks under the Bank Act of Canada. So
Okay.
I'd have to, generally it's the big 5 is kind of what you go with, but
The nice part about Farm Credit, you can set your own term. I won't name which bank, but when I was looking for a large amount of money, the bank I chose to deal with, they had a 15-year term, and that was the best you were going to get. And amortization, it was a 7-year, and I wanted somewhere between 12 to 15, so I could pay it out, but I want to lock the whole term. And the only place that provided that was FCC. It's just a food for thought. Might be something to check out just to see if it's applicable in the township on any front. Thank you.
Any other comments in regards to this motion? Okay, go ahead.
I cannot let this go without an amendment to the bylaw. We can defer it, or we can talk about an amendment, because otherwise my vote's just going to be a no, which is going to probably be obliterated. But as I read the bylaw, and I'll quote, it says, a bylaw to authorize long-term borrowing in the amount of up to 6.8 million for the purpose of construction of a fire hall. Then all the whereases, if you get down to the big one, this is where the plurality starts. Let me see. And Schedule A. Well, why do we need Schedule A in there? Once again, we're only borrowing for a fire hall. This isn't a policy. This is a bylaw. Then when you get down to, therefore be it resolved, and it says, Mayor and Treasurer are authorized to execute and deliver. Of course they are. That's good. Of this bylaw in respect of the capital works. S. On such terms, we don't need the S. We're dealing with fire hall. So I would amend, get rid of the capital, the plurality. And if you want to get right to it, let's get rid of that. We can keep the A part. For the purpose of obligation, that's no problem. Number 4, treasurer, ... Let's just keep it right down to the fire hall. So let's get rid of the plurality. And I would like that, those words, anything that says plurality, taken out, struck from the bylaw.
When you say
Plurality means the S that's
sorry.
attached to the capital works.
So it's that one S and that one thing? 'Cause
Yep.
I
Yep.
need to be clear. If
Mhm.
you're asking for an amendment, you have to be specific. with
Well,
what the
then I would
change-
like the S taken off of every reference to capital work.
You want it to read capital work
Yeah,
instead of.
Because no
capital
one's really
works.
read this in detail, and it bothers me that I don't understand why it's there. We're talking about a fire hall. That's not plural, that's one. So we're mixing up policy with a bylaw. If you want to have a policy, then write the policy. But the bylaw need not include that, and I don't know why it would. We're talking about fire hall, singular.
Okay.
Okay,
go
I
ahead.
know that's picky, but it bothers me. It seems clumsy to me, the way it's written.
Go ahead, Counselor Kelman.
I was just noting, it does go back and forth within the bylaw. It is pluralized in some spots and not in others. I don't share Councillor Gorell's concern. I think it's very clear, particularly at the end, it says that it can only be used for this capital work. But if it would make Councillor Gorell more comfortable to do the housekeeping and get rid of, I see at least 2 pluralized spots in number 1 and number 2, but then in other spots it is not pluralized. So would be very happy to second a motion to amend the bylaw to remove the bracketed S's.
Yeah,
if
we're
that
gonna
was
have the
going-
clerk speak
Okay.
to this.
Through you, your worship. So, like the treasurer had said, this bylaw was taken as a precedent, using the IO's actual precedent that they had given to municipalities for lending that they had given. So this was taken as a precedent. The whereases are very, very specific it speaks to the Municipal Act. Those are really the legislative requirements, the whereases. In the second whereas, it does say that Schedule A attached here to forming to part of this bylaw, authorizing the capital works described in column 2 of Schedule A. So this bylaw is 100% tied to the Schedule A. And there's nothing else under Schedule 2 in column, or Schedule A in column 2, other than the construction of the new fire hall in Sealy's Bay. So I do want to point out that all of the whereases are very, very legislatively required.
Okay. I'll let you go, Deputy Mayor Foti, and then we'll decide on this amendment if necessary.
Well, thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Just for clarity, Councillor Gorell's references to plurality, I picked that up and saw it as well. I took it that those S's were that the finance department has to pay more than one payout to various companies. That's how I read it. Am I wrong there?
Go ahead.
Through Mayor, yes, you would be wrong in that assumption. The S is referred to, you could take a loan out for multiple capital projects through one loan issue. So in theory, if we had multiple projects that we were doing in one shot, they would all be listed in Schedule A separately. So that's why it's written in that context.
So it's there in the event that you had multiple projects that you were doing with the one bylaw. Like originally, when we first spoke about this, it was supposed to be for the Ivy Lee Wharf and
We
this and a fire truck.
You could have done that all in one debt issue and they would all be listed separately under Schedule 3 or Schedule A, sorry, separately on there. The other important part of Schedule A that hasn't come up is Schedule A also refers to the bylaws that approve the budget for this capital project. And that's an important part under the Municipal Act as well. So the bylaws that are in there, those are the approved capital budget. So it's over multiple years because this project has lasted years. So that's an important part to have in Schedule A as well, to show where we did approve that capital budget, because we shouldn't be issuing debt on something that hasn't been approved through a budget.
A budget. Okay. So going back to you, Councillor Groh. As far as the amendment is.
These going to be the last few words I have on this.
Mm-mm.
And you know me, I can go all night. Schedule A, how does it change? The bylaw states right at the front end, say it again, the bylaw says a bylaw authorizing long-term borrowing in the amount of X for the purpose of a fire hall. And then now we're circling around to the idea that, oh, don't worry, Schedule A is flexible.
You can't amend a bylaw. You have to repeal it.
Well, then, okay,
So
so
you
no,
can't-
that's the answer. So you're telling me that the Municipal Act and so on determine that we need a Schedule A in here that highlights that bylaw. And yet if we want to do further borrowing outside of this, we have to repeal this and rewrite it or make an additional one.
we would have a
Those
separate
are really the
bylaw.
points I'm making. It just seems lead-footed to me. It seems clumsy as heck.
Your
And,
worship.
and it kind of irritated me reading it or trying to read it. Thank you.
That's fair. Typical of bylaws and legislation. But any bank would require, I mean, if in 3 years, a staff member tried to use this bylaw that says that it was passed on Monday, July 14th, 2025, I don't think any of the big 5 lenders would ever use a bylaw or issue a debt that said that was okay. It would also, this specific bylaw allows the treasurer and the mayor or the clerk to sign off on this specific, but we would need a different bylaw to sign off on any different loans. It would also require the bylaw, more bylaw numbers that specific capital works project was approved under each budget. It would require that information. So you could try to amend the bylaw, but I don't think it's ever going to fly for the legislative requirements.
There precisely, you just said that was my whole point of the disconnect. If this,
Is your microphone
Only-
on? Sorry, people can't hear
if
you.
this, pardon me, through you, your worship, again, my second time at last comments, you just highlighted it. If this is for one purpose and that you cannot amend this, then get rid of the S. It's clumsy. Thank you. I'll leave it at that. I'm done.
Okay, so the motion still stands as read on the floor. Any further comments before I call the question? No, because there wasn't the specificity, and that's why I had further comment, because I didn't want, so you want to
I
make,
arrived at the specificity was get rid of the S, I thought.
Counselor Grell would like to amend the bylaw to
Right.
take out the S's and public, or in, not in public works, in capital works
Yeah.
in the bylaw,
Correct.
correct?
Yeah, we'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Okay, and is there a seconder for that motion? Blackie? Okay, so the amendment to the motion is to remove the S's in the bylaw as written. So because that amendment is on the floor, I would like to ask the treasurer to speak to, will this change or prevent us from getting what we need because of those administrative in nature changes? Because that's my concern, is that if we took that and somebody went through it with a fine tooth comb, is it going to be a problem?
Through Mayor, I don't believe so. The only thing I would add is we use the IO template because it has been vetted legally from a borrowing bylaw point of view. And the only thing I would say is the S's in question, not to be difficult. I know you reading it, you found a hard time. Writing this, I've had a hard time writing it. They are in parentheses for a reason, so that if they don't apply, that's why they're in parentheses as well. But I don't believe it will materially keep us from getting the loan.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so the amendment remains on the floor for removing the S's on capital work to have it read capital work instead of capital works. All those in favor of removing those? All those opposed? Okay, it is carried. So the motion is amended. Carried. That council grant 3 readings and final passage to bylaw, amended bylaw 2025-038, removing the S's, being a bylaw to, on capital work. Sorry, I'm paraphrasing. You're writing it? Okay, sorry. I'll wait for the clerk to make sure that I have it. It was Counselor Gorell and Counselor Lackey seconded. You're welcome. So the amended motion reads, I just want to make sure that I'm clear. That council grant 3 readings and final passage to amended bylaw 2025-038, being a bylaw to authorize long-term borrowing in the amount up to $6,808,500 for the purpose of the construction of a fire hall as attached to corporate services 2025-020. So the operative clause being the amended bylaw. Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Okay, next item is 12.3 Thousand Isles Parkway intersection speed and access. Moved by Councillor Lackey, seconded by Councillor Kelman, that the Council of Leeds and the Thousand Islands supports a speed reduction and speed calming measures as appropriate on the Thousand Islands Parkway, and more specifically at the blind corner and intersections of Fitzsimmons Road, Ivy Lee Road, and the Thousand Islands Parkway. That Council directs staff to send a letter to the St. Lawrence Parks Commission requesting that the above be reviewed and implemented as appropriate, and that Council requests staff to bring back a report regarding an additional entrance from the Thousand Islands Parkway to Ivy Lee Road for emergency services and accessibility purposes. Councillor Lackey made the motion. Please speak to it if you can.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. In consultation after this was written with more people of the Ivy Lee area and councillors and staff, I would actually like that to read that staff actually do more than what it says and look at an improvement, overall improvement, such as we're doing in Rockport, Lansdowne, Sealy's Bay, the other hamlets. To maybe this would be expanded in the future to look at.
So the final clause being that the council requests staff to bring back a report regarding an additional entrance from the Thousand Islands Parkway to the Ivy Lee Road for emergency service and accessibility purposes
Community.
and community improvement. And so the amendment would be and community improvement plan.
Perfect.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that amendment? Oh, sorry. I'm going to take a seconder here. I got Councillor Gorell. Go ahead, Marnie.
Thank you, through you. I was just going to say, community improvement plan has different meanings, and I'm not sure that
Oh.
that wording is the right wording to be using. It's
Okay.
more of a functional analysis
It's-
of Ivy Lee Road.
We're not using the urbanization.
Functional analysis of Ivy Lee Road.
What did we call it, Dave? The rehabilitation? No, revitalization? Community revitalization. Sorry, were we friendly, Mr. Lackey, Mr. Grell, to change improvement to revitalization? That was close. Thanks, Marnie. Almost saved me from myself, but. Okay. So the amendment is to tack on community revitalization at the end of the last clause. Are there any further discussions on the amendment? No? Okay. I will call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the original motion, which is for further discussion. And in speaking to, just to remind everybody that we have community revitalization added to the last clause. So further comments on the motion as amended. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. This is being sent to St. Lawrence Parks Commission. Do they have the authority to determine speed limits and everything else, or is that turned over to MTO on their behalf?
They work in conjunction with them. So first stop would be MTO is taking on the management of it, but it would be in conjunction with direction from the St. Lawrence Parks.
So they would have to therefore do studies and surveying and sight lines and sight distances, I should say. This won't be a speedy result, not likely.
Considering we've already brought it to their attention in the past, no. However, in light of other more data available for any accidents or fender benders in that area, as well as, close calls, there's other things that we can do to help when we're talking about the community revitalization. We could put cameras there and show if we had to. I'm not saying we will. I'm saying that is a potential solution. Sort of the similar type issue that we had out at Highway 32 and 15 when we went to MTO and said, you need to put a speed reduction in there. There's going to be a fatality. And then there was.
Right.
So.
No, the whole gist of this request is warranted. I mean, for anybody that travels the parkway, or for those of you who live on it and travel it much more than I do, it's just slightly shy of the speed limit of the 401 now. It's not the scenic parkway anymore. It's a scenic speedway.
Further comments in regards to this? Go ahead, Councillor Groh.
Yeah, thank you. And again, through you, Your Worship. it has come to my attention in the past month or more, that the really important part to me, I mean, speed limits are important for sure, but it's the third clause, and that is the additional entrance. I think a number of us on council, it's been brought to our attention of the volume of traffic and the choke points on the road, this sort of thing. This is the essence, to me, of this consideration before us. And however you cut it, it could be expensive, but we need to think about something here because that road can get plugged. We have a $2.5 million dock sitting at the end for emergency purposes, for the islanders, for fire, you name it. And if you can't get heavy equipment down that road in a hurry, then what's the point of all of the fire service standards that we talk about at this horseshoe, you know, fire underwriter service, so many minutes, blah, blah, blah. You all heard it before. If we can't guarantee that a vehicle can get down that road or get to the dock or get to someone's house at a reasonable time, and we can't just say, oh, it happens only now and again that that road gets plugged. I don't drive down there very often, but when I do, I'm always looking at those choke points going, all it takes is one vehicle. Now, mind you, you can push it into the hedges, but we need to address this. And I know that there are people in this audience who have a committee, may I say, and I think it would behoove this township before we end up in court to, it's going to be expensive. The study has got to happen, I think. I support that. What we do with it, that's for going to be another council probably. There have been suggestions. I don't know how viable they are. So far it's just talk, but really it is important. That is a very busy village. It's a settlement area in our own
Official
not
plan.
planning and in
Official
our
plan.
official plan. It's a settlement area. We can't just go, oh, it's just a tourist area or something. It's not. It's a settlement area. So we tend to not want to deal with it, but we should. And this gives us an opportunity. Now, how much do we want to throw at infrastructure plan? That is the $1 million question, isn't it? Where do we start with this? You know, this is all kind of innocent. Dave's going to come back to us and go, okay, here's some reality numbers, but we can't back away from it. We have to at least get an understanding of what is possible, what it's going to cost us. We really do, because moving forward, a generation or 10 years, whatever, that's my thoughts on it. Thank you.
Further comments? Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Yes, I've always been a proponent of having a second exit or entrance to any development, as we have had even south of the tracks here. And I do believe that there's 2 to 3 options in the village of Ivy Lee that have been there for many, many years. So it's just a matter of developing one that is going to be attainable and amenable to all the people that are in that area. So I do believe that that is something that needs to be looked at, as well as the speed limit on the parkway needs to be reduced from Brockville to Gananoque on a general basis. And that would be a big start to helping mitigate any issues. The other side of that is also the legislative body who has to enforce it, being there, being present, because without them, nothing's going to change. As we know, you can put a speed limit anywhere in this municipality. And if there's not a police car or somebody who's going to enforce it, it really doesn't matter. So it's hand in hand. We have to look at this in more than just one direction. So we need to see what we can do to attain that, but wholeheartedly agree with Ivy Lee being looked at and amendments being made to the property or other avenues of getting another exit. Because again, a fire truck or a fire happening on that road at the end that takes half a day to clear up with trucks and hoses locks everybody in there. So we definitely need to have something happening to move this forward, because a half a day of somebody having a heart attack farther down in the road is not going to get out, not going to get help. So we need to look at something.
Thank you. Any further comments? I would just like to say that I had the pleasure of meeting with the newly formed Ivy League residents group here last Friday, I believe. This past Friday, I'm losing days. So I thank them for coming forward with their concerns. But to the point that has been already made, this is a settlement area. We have done these plans for our settlement areas for all other settlement areas other than Ivy Lee to date. I believe Director Holliday, when you and I spoke, the ones for Sealy's Bay and Lyndhurst were done 2009. They were done a while ago. But obviously Lansdowne is just being the bow is being pinned on that. Rockport is moving forward, and Ivy Lee also needs to be done. But to the point that I just want to say, I think it's very timely, and I think that it is important, and I thank Councillor Lackey and Councillor Kelman to bring this forward. But just a word of caution, this will be a bumpy road at some point. Pardon the pun. The reason I say that is because with all of our smaller hamlets and with sometimes diverging opinions of what should or shouldn't happen, there's going to be some dialogue that might be uncomfortable. I know that when we did surveys in Rockport, we ended up with some pins on people's porches, which didn't make them very happy. All that being said, it is what it is, and we have to deal with it. And that's the comments that I've heard around the horseshoe this evening. So I just really think that the group of residents who felt it important came forward and have pushed this along. And it's very timely as we will be entering into budget considerations here in the fall. And part of that community revitalization piece is interacting with the public and the folks down in Ivy Lee about their own community and what they want to see. So it will be part of the process that we undertake, providing that we get it through budget and we do all of that legwork here near the end of the year. So with that, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving on to 12.4, review a special event permit process. And the motion comes forward from Councillor Antoine Hartley, seconded by Deputy Mayor Fody. The council directs staff to conduct a comprehensive review of the special event permit application process and operational procedures that directly affect volunteer involvement, with a focus on identifying opportunities to streamline and improve coordination of the following areas. Eliminate duplication of efforts across departments that leads to unnecessary use of volunteer resources by promoting better collaboration and information sharing among township departments. Remove barriers to the use of facilities, including fee structures, which are such barriers do not materially increase liability risk to the township or volunteer organizations. Update operational procedures to acknowledge and reflect the distinct characteristics, volunteer capabilities, and facility availability within each village, ensuring these differences are meaningfully considered in related decision-making. That was, thank you, Councillor Antoine Hartley, testing my English here on a Monday night. So the motion is on the floor, up for discussion. Councillor Hartley, if you'd like to speak to it.
So, through you, Your Worship, I brought this forward as a result of the delegation that we heard from Mr. Hand on June 16th to the barriers to volunteerism. And there are several aspects to the process of applying for special event permits that tend to throw up barriers. Since its creation a few years ago, the process has kind of become, for lack of a better description, a little bit of a Frankenstein process or document. Every time there's something comes in a larger municipality, there's something happen, then it gets added to our process. Every time we have different staff that come on board with different experiences, different municipalities run things differently. There's a little bit of a disconnect in that Kingston, for example, with 100
80,000.
80,000 people is a little bit different than our area. So, and through the process, there's been, as I said, things just keep getting added, what ends up happening is that everybody, the volunteers think, oh, got it done. And then the emails start. Oh, you didn't, you have to do this as well, and you have to do that as well. And after a while, it becomes very frustrating, very time consuming. We only have so many volunteer hours. And for process things like Turkey Fair that don't really change a lot in their components, they should be able to go to last year's permit, make the changes without having to start from scratch. And also sometimes there's a disconnect between the departments. So you're told one thing from one department and then all of a sudden something else pops up, which can sometimes cause a great deal of friction. We had quite a big deal of friction with Canada Day over the use of the canteen. Something that had always been part of the Canada Day, and all of a sudden we were told that it wasn't a rentable space. And even in our permit for this year, we're told, it says right in it, not allowed to use it for next year. So this is for this year only. And the reasonings, I guess there's a disconnect maybe between community and township in that respect. So, and also, and the last point in this is that update operational procedures to acknowledge and reflect the distinct characteristics, volunteer capabilities, and facility availability within each village. We all have heard people say, oh, one place or one village or the other, oh, they get everything. We know that that's not true. For example, Lansdowne has, before amalgamation, had lots of things. And now it's perceived that they get everything only because the township is responsible for making sure that those things continue, right? It's not that Lansdowne's getting more. It's that we need to keep it going and sustaining it. So, as I said, and that's a perception, and we know it's a perception. So I think when staff are looking at the different areas, different facilities that we have available to us, that they maybe can look at it through more of an equity focus as opposed to an equality focus, because I don't think cookie cutter works. Sealy's Bay is not like Lansdowne. Lyndhurst is not like Rockport. We all have our own distinct facilities, personalities, and fair is not, I really don't like the word fair because it doesn't express exactly what it should be. Fair to me is that everybody gets what they need, not what that they all get the same. And so I just would like to see when decisions are made pertaining to these events and the volunteers, is that those things are taken into consideration.
Thank you. Further comments to the motion that's on the floor? Okay, the only thing that I will say, to the point that you have made, that perception sometimes can be perceived as reality, but that if we totaled the funds that were spent in the northern part of this municipality in the last 5 years would far exceed what has been spent in the southern part.
Yeah.
But, I'm not going to split hairs over that. But just also a caution that many of the things that I agree with you, Councillor Antoine Hartley, that there are things that we can be doing better. However, as far as standardization, we have to look at efficiency as well. And part of your motion here is about making this more simple and streamlined. So I would just caution that not treating everybody fair and equitably in the different communities when it comes to regulations might be a little more challenging, but it will be up for our staff to come forward with maybe some suggestions on how to make this more efficient, still while protecting the municipality and the corporation that we sit at this table to protect. So we're here for the community, but the corporate risk is also what we have a fiduciary responsibility to protect. So, okay, I will call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Next item, moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Deputy Mayor Fody, that the staff reports for information be received and filed. We have 2 items of information. Escott Cemetery Grant and Charleston Lake Septic Inspection. Are there any comments to be made on any of the items? Oh, sorry, staff, I got cross-pollinated. It's my fault. 2 reports came in for staff reports. 13.1, 13.2, operating capital status for June 30th, 2025, and renewal of Family Services Employee Assistance Program agreement. So those are the 2 staff reports, not the information items. My apologies. Are there any comments in regards to 13.1 and 13.2? Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mine is per 13.1, the operating capital. Public Works truck maintenance, 112%, 157,000. Just wondering if we could get clarification on that. And then I had a second question of the winter control sand and salt. Was there any left over for this year coming ahead, since that budget's kind of split in 2? And I guess the third question is there any capital items that are not going to happen this year because of the budget being close or something being deferred? Oh, I guess I did have a 4th question. Sorry. The COVID reserve fund, maybe it should be renamed something else. Thanks.
Director Holliday, do you have any comments in regards to those questions?
Thank you, through your worship. So with the fleet maintenance, that also incorporates our winter operating season. At one point, we had 1 tandem running and everything else had broken down. So our mechanic was very busy keeping things on the road. I'm not sure what happened, but the man is a machine. I don't know how he does what he does. But we did have a lot of breakdowns over the course of the winter season that pushed us above and beyond where we expected to be. And yeah, where we are monitoring where we're at with the fleet going forward. As a result of that, we have to be very cautious that we don't push that too far. Sorry, the
Winter control.
The winter control, yes. So we ended up filling our dome 3 times this year. It was a lot more than what we had anticipated. I know that we're low on the actual winter control, but certainly we used a lot of materials given whether it snows 5 inches or it snows an inch or you get an ice storm, we still have to apply the same amount of material. Hence the feedback we received on the amount of sand on the roads in the spring this year. We did have to go out a lot of times more than what we had expected, and that as a result we used a lot of material. Capital projects, we're still shooting to get every project that we're working on completed. Some have been delayed for various reasons, capacity in-house or just getting more information before we move forward with these projects. One that we probably will not move forward with is the windows at the Lansdowne Community Hall. We closed the tender on that and it came in much higher than what we had expected it to be. I think it was like 1 to 2 times higher than what we had budgeted. So we're reviewing that, what it is that we're trying to achieve. And our plan is to put that one back out in the new year once we scaled it down and actually set the budget, or working within the budget that we've been allotted. Other than that, the Haskins Point washroom, we're not moving forward with that one quite yet. It's just, you know, with everything else that we're working on, that's one that we're kind of holding off on. And then the the clean room in the fire hall is on our work plan. We hope to achieve it by the end of the year. But we're trying to deal with some of these bigger issues first, with the administration building and the infiltration that's happening here, with the site works. You know, when the weather's good, you want to be out paving. So we're trying to get that stuff wrapped up. And then the pillar project, as an example, with the building out back before it's not usable. So we're trying to get that stuff addressed. But so far we're hitting our targets to get the work done and keep it within budget.
Any other comments in regards to the budget? Oh, go ahead, Treasurer.
Sorry, I was just going to speak to the question on the COVID reserve.
Oh, sorry.
The councilor maybe brought up. So that money is, I believe that money is unspent money from the intake 3. So I don't know if everyone remembers back in the good old days of COVID. At first, municipalities were given funding without anything really attached to it to cover our operating costs. There were later streams that were very specific, and you had to report back every dollar you spent on what. This is the leftover money from that. It's been sitting there, and we still have not been given any direction on how to give that back to the province. We can't just use it, so that's why it's kind of there and separated. I would love to have it cleaned off our books as well, but that's what that is right now.
As much as we'd love to put it into something else, if the province doesn't want it back, maybe somebody will just forget about it 10 years from now. We'll have a community party and spread COVID. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments in regards to 13.1 or 13.2? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? We're carried. Now we're on to information items. And the motion comes from Councillor Antoine Hartley and Deputy Mayor Fody that the information items be received and filed. So 14.1 and 14.2 in regards to the Escott Cemetery Grant and the Charleston Lake Septic Inspection Program. Discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Maybe. Oh, sorry. I apologize, Council. Anyways, go ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to touch, if I could, on the Charleston Lake septic inspection.
Feel free. Go ahead.
Because I know when this first came out, I was here, and it was very successful. While it was the Charleston Lake septic inspection, I don't know why that has a special name, because it was just a septic reinspection for everywhere. It just started at Charleston Lake because it was the lake of lake trout sensitive, had a designation. I'm not sure what we want to do with this, or are we
So in order,
still doing this inspection in
Go ahead.
different areas of the
Madam
township?
Planner.
Thank you. Through you. So no, we haven't been doing it. The bylaw that was approved specifically speaks to the health unit doing the program and administering the program. So when I started with the township initially, the health unit had indicated they didn't have the capacity to carry forward the program. So we haven't done any re-inspections since 2018. Then COVID hit, and that was sort of the end of that. At the time, based on the research I've done, it also looked like the council of the day had directed staff to look into loans or some type of support for people in areas where there were septic systems or failed systems that had been identified. From what I can tell, based on reviewing old minutes, it looked like there was never any direction in terms of proceeding in that way, and that the treasurer of the time wasn't supportive of that type of a direction either. So at this point, what would need to happen if this was something that council chooses to proceed with is staff would need to do a review. We have been doing some research in terms of looking at a few other municipalities that do this. There are various approaches to it. In most situations, it's not the township staff that are administering it. There's an external agency that administers it and goes out and does the inspections based on different types of ranking systems, looking at whether it's at-risk lakes or whether it's a source water protection issue. So there'd need to be a review to determine what this type of a program would look like, how it would be administered and resourced, and what the cost would be.
Go ahead, follow up. Councillor Lackey.
I initially, it came to waterfront, all waterfront. Like I said, Charleston Lake was picked because it was the most sensitive. Then it was going to be the river, some of the other back lakes. Is that something that we could revert to, I hate to say it, but a complaint driven or?
I think that's
require
sort
you
of what we would need to give direction to staff. There would need to be a notice of
Find out
motion
what way we could proceed.
and ask for options. Go ahead,
Okay.
Madam Planner.
Just for clarification as well, so currently with septic inspection function being the role of the township, if we do receive complaints, we absolutely go ahead and investigate. When I've read the reports about the previous septic inspection program, you're correct in that different areas were identified annually to be addressed. So I believe Sealy's Bay was done, around Charleston Lake was done. That might be all that was actually accomplished through the few years. Yeah, that one may have been done. We were working with the ministry a few years ago and then COVID hit in terms of going out and doing a blitz on the islands because the Ministry of Environment was concerned about holding tanks on some of the islands, but that didn't happen. So I forget where I was going with that.
If we were to
But
create a
if we were
program,
to create a program, we would have to look at where we did it. The building inspectors can enforce on complaint, and we do that. Any new systems that go in around Charleston Lake, there's requirements for them to be set back further depending on the lot. There's also tertiary systems going in. So depending on the nature of a system that goes in on a property, a tertiary system, the installer is required to inspect it annually. And if they don't hear from the person whose property it's on, they're required to inform us. So the inspectors are then contacted and told, hey, I didn't get my annual maintenance call at this property, so you might want to go ahead and check the system. But it's the ones that we don't hear about, that we don't know about. So we'd need to do some review in terms of how to administer this type of thing. But we do have the ability right now under the building code to go ahead and inspect if there is a property that's suspect to have a failed system.
So if I may, so is that just, if somebody
That-
wants to put a notice of motion?
somebody would need to put
Okay.
a notice of motion, because one of the main things that should it go forward to the point that the planner has made is that we do not have sufficient staff to take that on. Where if based on complaint driven, we can address that at this point, because I don't think we're getting a ton of complaints at this point. However, if you had if we were inundated with it, then we would be obligated to go and investigate. However, the other thing that needs to be, we have the administrative monetary penalty bylaw as well. But I'm just saying that if we went down this path and there was costs associated with it, we might have to potentially, and can we put that fee on to have them inspected by a third party?
It would have to be through building code orders. We couldn't use administrative monetary
Fine.
penalty because it's building code versus municipal act bylaw. So I've done some research. Different municipalities address it different ways. Typically, what the bylaws from the other places say that I've seen is there's a fee assessed, which is charged to the landowner. If the landowner doesn't pay that fee within a certain period of time, then it's administered to the tax roll in the same manner as taxes.
Sorry, I used the wrong terminology, but the point being is that this could add further burden to the taxpayer. However, clean drinking water is kind of a thing too. So I think that there's other places that may be doing it that we could potentially put a program to follow suit, and it will require a little bit of finessing and some information to come forward from staff. So, okay, I'll go ahead, Councillor Cumlin.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Thank you to the director. She answered all of the questions that I had, plus more. I am very concerned about this, particularly on Charleston Lake, and not just with clean drinking water, but also with the algae bloom and how that will affect the environment. And I was concerned about staffing and the impact it would have on staffing, and that makes sense that other municipalities that are doing it are contracting it out. But I am also concerned about I know a lot of property owners on Charleston Lake are fairly well off, but I'm sure there are some that if it were found that they had to replace their entire septic, that would not be within their means to do so. So I do have that concern as well for the entire township. So I appreciate that in the past, that has been something I think I would like to see a notice of motion come forward on this, but I think I would like to see that included, is that there could be some sort of borrowing program or something through the township set up to assist those residents that might need it.
Yeah, we'll have to pull that report because if memory serves me correctly, that we weren't able to do
We
that.
couldn't do that.
We couldn't do that, but there is an Ontario Renovates program through the county that is possible. I'm just not sure if it's possible on secondary homes. If it's not.
The only other thing I would point out is through the Ontario Renovates, I believe a property has to be current with their taxes and have no outstanding debts as it relates to being able to obtain
Qualify
funds.
for the loan.
So just something we would have to
Right.
keep in mind if we
Well-
were to go ahead with a reinspection program.
I would actually challenge the comment that you made a little bit, Councillor Kelman, in regards to the number of people who might be better off out on Charleston. I think that there's been a lot of transfer of assets to families that spread further out down the line. Somebody doesn't want to pay, it goes to somebody else. It becomes a bit of an internal issue in a family issue. And then it can become a stalemate because, one person wants to get it done. The other person doesn't want to pay, doesn't care, doesn't want to. I think there's some other sensitive issues. However, there's other municipalities that have been doing this that we can take a look at and go from there. So Deputy Mayor Fody.
Thank you, Worship, through you. I think the residents of Charles Lake have a very valid request here. Although, as Director of Planning and Development has indicated, this can be a very tedious process involving, if you had 2 inspectors out on the road, I could perceive that they do well to hit 2, 3, 4, inspections a day, given location and size and terrain and so on. I think there's a lot bigger picture at work here. And all I'm thinking of is they indicated this started in 2007, so that makes it 18 years ago. It could be 18 years from today before they'd see significant results. But I do take validity in their point. Charleston Lake, from my knowledge, isn't like Gananoque Lake, for instance, where you got Singleton flowing into Red Horse, flowing through Black Rapids and into Gann. Charleston's kind of unique in their own catch basin there, if you will. So when they're doing their monitoring, it's likely pretty accurate. Perhaps somewhere along the line, you could set up a non-disclosure 911. I know a property that doesn't have a legit,
Pitch line is basically.
basically a snitch line. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I know from having worked on septic systems out in the St. Lawrence, snitch lines were pretty effective at catching new owners. Are you aware there's no septic there? Well, no, we have septic. You have a pipe going in the ground. We'll show you where it comes out. So I mean, these places do still exist. And as indicated, money would slow you down if you found out it was going to cost you $70,000 to fix this. Because if everything has to be transported by barge, it gets significantly higher. But all that aside, let's go back to the basic request from Charles Lake Association. This needed to be at least initiated and see where we can go with it with them.
So we'll look forward for a notice of motion at the later date. This is just information items. So these are to be received and filed. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? And it is carried. Announcements or statements from councillors? Go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, please bear with me for a second here. Again, Lansdowne Fair is this weekend, but on July 19th, Rotary Beach in Gananoque, we will be having an opening, which I'm participating in. One of the reasons I actually like this one is that I learned to swim there too. And I know that we don't have maybe an active swimming program right now or for the children. This could become one of them. Maybe it could be revitalized in that area. So something to be looking at. July 26th, the Bark Bash in Gananoque from 10 to 3. July 31st to August 3rd, La Festivals in Gananoque, which is brings in a lot of people from our local areas. August 9th, I'll be in Bracebridge for another Town Crier championship. And August 23rd, the Rockport Schoolhouse 100th year anniversary, I'll be participating in also. And a point to our snow removal. Toronto snow budget for this year is 153 million. Don't think we need to go that high. But also today is oh yay, oh yay, oh yay. It's National Town Crier Day. So I'd like to recognize all my fellow criers in the province of Ontario, as well as around the world on this particular day, as we all can scream louder than some others. May we all live well, and God save the King.
Thank you. Any other statements? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Just a question. Were you going to make a wrap-up comment about our fire hall? If not, I was.
A wrap-up comment in regards to how it went for the opening
Well,
day?
the overall, there hasn't been a wrap-up in my opinion. We did a ribbon cutting.
Well,
Oh, you don't want to see me wrap, believe me.
no, I'll let you say a few words. I think I spoke to it after the ribbon cutting and how pleased we were with the turnout, and that, you know, it was well attended by both past firefighters, current firefighters, their families, residents, dignitaries, and everybody being very impressed with it. So if you'd like to add to that, please go forward.
Well, all I was thinking is tonight we, on your terms, put a bow on it by approving to pay the bill, S's or no S's. And that was a good point, by the way. I would just like to give credit where credit's due. This all started out while we were notified of this flag when we were first elected in 18, that this is an issue coming to you sooner than later. And it had been an issue for a number of years. And all of us here at the table, and two that were at the table that are not here now, also participated in this and were vigorously behind it. And then fast forward, Dave Holliday, you deserve all the credit. This ultimately started with you to gather up the information required for an RFP. And I can't help but think the onus put on you. I was thinking about this the other night when I was reading this. I got thinking, you had a lot of pressure put on you. And because when you're putting out an RFP and you leave out an integral part that only amounted to $400,000, you're going to come back to aware of that. But nonetheless, working with finance, and I know there's other department heads here that were involved there, namely the fire chief, but nonetheless, you were in charge of putting out the RFPs. Excuse me, and it came back, if I remember right, there was 13 bidders. Every single one of them were much higher than we had anticipated, even the lowest one. And that brought on great discussion, which was good for all the right reasons. And fast forward to a finished product that is well done and on budget. Under budget now. It's getting cheaper. Councillor Grell, thus the S's. We got wiggle room here. No, I say thus the S's. We got wiggle room. We could move it back up. That's just an aside. But that's great. It came in under budget. That's even better still. But I mean, this building was done and done well under serious oversight. I've heard a few comments as it was being built as to the gentleman, Mark was his name, was it not? That was behind the oversight day to day there. JCB or JBC? Gord? Oh, I was close, wasn't I? But nonetheless, I mean, he took a firm stance on anybody that didn't do what they were hired to do. A serious firm stance. You come back and fix that or else you won't be paid. Maybe, I don't know what he said. I'm not putting words in his mouth but the point I want to make is this was done correct right from beginning to end, and end is tonight. We agreed to pay the bills. And to all those involved, and namely to you, Dave Holliday, this has been a large ticket item. We know exactly now how large, and there's a lot of risk for those of you in council that voted for this and all the staff that worked on this to bring it through. It's a proud moment for all the residents in the township to have that, literally a flagship fire hall. But my congratulations to you, Dave, and all those that worked with you. Well, job well done.
Go ahead, Councillor Kelman.
Thank you, Worship, and through you. I just wanted to add another anniversary because we won't meet in August. Tiara, the Thousand Islands Alliance of River Advocates, is celebrating their 50th anniversary on August 9th when they have their AGM at the Rockport Recreation Hall. And I just also wanted to add, I know we're not doing Rise and Report tonight, but the library board did meet this morning, and the archives report, the archives volunteers are very closely monitoring without going on site the work that's being done at Escott Hall. And they are very, very, very pleased with the progress they're seeing there, particularly, Pierre was mentioning this morning, the workmanship that they are seeing, the attention to detail, the fact that work is being done on Sundays. They're just the way that neighbors have been brought in and spoken to. And so overall, just very, very happy with what's being done with that significant project as well. So I just wanted to pass that along.
Okay. Follow up, Deputy Mayor, and then.
Thank you. With Councillor Kelman's comments, this past weekend, a very historical buff came to me, and he had passed through here very recently. And he said, I see you guys sold Escott Hall Springfield House because the new owners are doing extensive work there. I corrected all of
that. Councillor Antoine Hartley.
Through you, Your Worship. I seem to be always thinking with my stomach lately, but Olivet United Church is having their annual pork barbecue coming up on August the 10th. Once again, it's takeout. Drive through the cemetery, pay for your meal, and pick it up on the way out onto 32 Highway. You have to pre-order to let us know what kind of pie you want.
And pie is there?
There's
Fine.
cherry, apple, and blueberry. Okay. Yeah, and all the pork, corn from Cornacre Farms, scallop potatoes, beans, you name it, all the trimmings. And once again, with my stomach, the steak barbecue at the Sealy's Bay Legion 491 is August 16th. Come and order your steak as you'd like it cooked for $20.
Okay. Okay, no other announcements. I'll just add, for those that weren't here in chambers, we had a very generous gift prior to council from the textile artists that meet here on a regular basis at the community building in Lansdowne. And it is a beautiful textile made with multiple mediums, if you will, with a very collaborative effort of artists. And it will be hanging here in our front lobby as a gift from them. And we are very appreciative of that. Just another reminder, Lansdowne Fair opens on Thursday evening. I will be there for opening ceremonies. Unfortunately, our MP and MPP are unable to attend this year due to prior commitments. The MPP will be at hearing in regards to municipal codes of conduct in Ottawa that particular day, and apparently he is there till the end of the day. There is lots of delegations. So I will bring greetings on behalf of both of them. Also, the Thousand Islands Association breakfast is on the Saturday morning on the 19th at the Thousand Islands Playhouse. So if you haven't already got your ticket, please do so. They do need a head count. And that is all I have to say. And just to wish everybody well for the quote unquote August break. So the August break, for those of us that sit on council and staff, we do not have committee of the whole or council meeting unless a special meeting is called in the month of August. So only myself, Councillor Antoine Hartley, and Councillor Kelman, I believe, are headed to AMO. That is happening on the 16th, 17th, 18th-ish in there in the city of Ottawa. So we will bring back information from that conference as we learn. And then we'll go forward with the next item on the agenda, which is a closed session. Moved by Deputy Mayor Foti, seconded by Councillor Antoine Hartley, that council will resolve in committee of the whole closed to discuss the following items: closed session minutes, June 16th, 2025, and a matter under 239 1B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. All those in favor? All those opposed? And we're carried. Okay, so we'll move in camera. We'll stop the live stream. If anybody needs to take a comfort break, we've been at this for an hour and a half now. So please go and use the washroom, and we'll be back. We don't have to move.